The first laugh he had allowed himself in 10 years cost him everything. It was a bright Saturday afternoon, sunlight spilling like liquid gold through the tall glass windows of the seaside restaurant, when Kieran Vale leaned back in his chair and smiled without fear for the first time in a decade. Across from him sat the only person who had ever seen him cry, the only person who had held his trembling hands the night his world collapsed. He did not know that just a few tables away, a pair of sharp, calculating eyes had already judged him guilty. Before we step into what happened next, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Deep Night Stories if you believe in kindness and second chances. Stories like this remind us why compassion matters more than power ever will. Kieran had not taken a single day off in 10 years. Not one holiday. Not one sick leave. Not even the day after his wife, Alina, was laid to rest under a sky so gray it felt like the world was mourning with him. He had returned to work the next morning because the bills did not pause for grief. And his 3-year-old son, Soren, needed milk, diapers, and a father who would not fall apart. He worked as a senior operations manager at Harrow and Blythe Technologies, a fast-growing corporation in the heart of the city. When he joined, he was young, ambitious, and in love with life. When tragedy struck, ambition turned into necessity. He became the man who arrived first and left last, the man who answered emails at 2 a.m., the man who never complained, never asked for raises, never pushed back. He simply worked. His colleagues admired him from a distance. Some pitied him quietly. Few understood him. Every morning he woke before sunrise. He prepared Soren's breakfast, packed his school lunch with little notes folded into the shape of hearts, and braided his son's long hair the way Alina used to. Yes, Soren liked his hair long, and Kieran defended that choice fiercely against the teasing of other fathers. After dropping him at school, he drove straight to the office, burying himself in spreadsheets and deadlines. For 10 years, his life had been a carefully balanced equation of sacrifice. But that Saturday was different. It was Soren's 13th birthday. For months, Soren had asked for only one thing. Not a gaming console, not a bike, not a phone. He wanted his father to spend an entire day with him. No work calls, no rushing, no laptop open at the dinner table. Just one full day together. Kieran had hesitated when submitting his leave request. He stared at the screen for almost an hour before clicking submit. It was his first leave application in a decade. A single day. The new CEO, Marissa Caldwell, had joined the company just 3 months earlier. Known for her ruthless efficiency and icy leadership style, she had already restructured departments and dismissed several long-term employees in the name of productivity. She believed loyalty was proven through results, not history. When Kieran's leave request crossed her desk, she frowned. 10 years without vacation, and now suddenly he wants a day off? During peak quarter, the timing irritated her, but she approved it, barely glancing at his file. That Saturday afternoon, Marissa happened to be dining at the same restaurant with a potential investor. The deal she was negotiating could expand the company internationally. She prided herself on being observant, on reading people quickly. And that was when she saw him, Kieran Vale, Senior Operations Manager, sitting by the window in casual clothes, laughing. Across from him sat a distinguished older man in a tailored navy suit, silver hair perfectly combed, his posture commanding yet gentle. The two of them were holding hands across the table. To Marissa, it looked intimate, secretive. Her mind raced with assumptions. Was he discussing confidential information? Was this a competitor? A journalist? Had he taken leave to betray the company? She did not recognize the older man, but she recognized opportunity and threat when she saw it. Without hesitation, she excused herself from her investor, walked toward their table and stood there long enough for her shadow to darken their plates. Kieran looked up, confusion turning to shock. Marissa did not lower her voice. In the middle of the bright restaurant, with waiters and diners turning to watch, she accused him of misconduct, of dishonesty, of compromising the company's integrity. She mentioned confidentiality clauses and trust. Kieran tried to explain, but she cut him off. Her words were sharp and final. Effective immediately, he was terminated for conduct unbecoming of a senior manager. The restaurant fell silent. Soren's smile faded. Yes, the older man was not a rival executive. He was Soren. It had been Soren's idea to wear a suit that day. He had wanted to look grown up for his first official birthday lunch with his father. He had insisted they hold hands across the table because he said, in a voice still soft with childhood, that he never wanted to lose his dad the way he lost his mom. The distinguished older man, Marissa, thought she saw was simply a tall 13-year-old trying to act mature, but in her haste, she had not noticed the faint freckles, the braces barely visible when he smiled, or the birthday card sticking out of Kieran's jacket pocket. Kieran stood slowly, his face pale but composed. He did not argue. He did not beg. He simply nodded, gathered his son's hand, and left the restaurant under the weight of 100 watching eyes. That evening, he sat at the edge of Soren's bed, apologizing for ruining his birthday. Soren shook his head and said it had been the best day of his life because his dad had been fully there. The job, he said, did not matter as much as the memory. But Kieran knew reality would soon knock on their door. Rent was due in 2 weeks. Savings were limited. He had given everything to the company and kept little for himself. The following Monday, news of his dismissal spread quietly through the office. Many employees were unsettled. Kieran had been the backbone of operations. Projects flowed through him. Crises dissolved under his calm oversight. Without him, cracks began to show. Deadlines were missed. Vendors complained. Internal systems faltered. Marissa, meanwhile, finalized her investor meeting. Proud of her decisive leadership, she believed she had removed a potential liability. 3 days later, an unexpected visitor arrived at Harrow and Blythe headquarters. He introduced himself as Lionel Ashford. The board members stiffened at the name. Lionel Ashford was not merely a businessman. He was the silent majority shareholder of the company, the original angel investor who had funded Harrow and Blythe in its fragile early days. Though he rarely appeared in person, his influence was absolute. He requested a private meeting with the CEO. Marissa welcomed him with confidence, assuming he was there to discuss expansion plans. Instead, he asked a single question. Why was Kieran Vale terminated? Marissa explained her observations at the restaurant, framing it as a security concern. Lionel listened without interruption. His expression remained unreadable. Then he told her something that drained the color from her face. Lionel Ashford was Soren's grandfather. After Alina's death, grief had fractured the family. Lionel had blamed himself for being distant, for prioritizing business over his daughter's happiness. It took him years to reconnect with Kieran and Soren. The birthday lunch had been their first public outing together as a family since the tragedy. Lionel had wanted to support his grandson's wish for a special day. He had also quietly supported Kieran financially over the years, though Kieran had rarely accepted help. What Lionel respected most was Kieran's integrity and devotion. He had invested in Harrow and Blythe, partly because he believed in the leadership of men like Kieran. Now, he was reconsidering that belief. Marissa attempted to defend her decision, but the weight of her error was undeniable. She had not investigated. She had not asked questions. She had acted on assumption. Within a week, the board convened an emergency session. The company's declining performance without Kieran's oversight was documented. Employee morale surveys reflected fear rather than motivation. Marissa was asked to step down. Meanwhile, Kieran had begun searching for work. He attended interviews during the day and returned home to cook dinner and help Soren with homework. The uncertainty was heavy, but there was also something new in his life. Time. He walked Soren to school every morning instead of rushing away. He attended a daytime school debate competition and watched his son speak confidently about resilience. He visited Alina's grave in the afternoon sunlight rather than in hurried twilight moments. Then came the phone call. It was Lionel. He did not ask Kieran to return for Lionel's sake. He told him the board wanted him back, not just as an operations manager, but as chief operating officer. They needed someone who understood the company's heart, not just its numbers. Kieran hesitated, not out of pride, but out of caution. He did not want to step back into a culture that valued suspicion over humanity. Lionel assured him changes were being made. Leadership training, a renewed focus on employee well-being, policies protecting family leave. After a long conversation with Soren, who told him he deserved to be valued, Kieran agreed. The day he returned to the office, sunlight streamed through the lobby windows. Employees who had once watched him leave in humiliation now stood and applauded softly, not out of obligation, but respect. He walked differently now, not as a man desperate to keep his head above water, but as someone who understood his worth. In his first address to the company, he spoke not of profits or expansion, but of balance. He shared how fear-based leadership destroys trust. He emphasized that people are not machines, that sometimes the most productive thing an employee can do is take a day off to celebrate a child's birthday. Under his guidance, Harrow and Blythe transformed. Productivity improved not through intimidation, but through loyalty. Employees felt seen, heard. Months later, on another bright afternoon, Kieran sat once again at that seaside restaurant. This time, there was no shadow looming over the table. Across from him sat Soren and Lionel. 3 generations, 3 ends intertwined in quiet gratitude. Kieran realized something profound. Being fired had felt like the end of stability, but it had also forced the truth into the light. It revealed who valued him and who merely used him. It gave him back moments he had been postponing for a decade. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and comment to let us know you believe in compassion over judgment. Your support helps stories like these reach more people who may need hope today. And before we close, comment the word second chance if you believe no mistake should define a person forever. Because sometimes, the brightest days begin with what feels like the darkest humiliation. Sometimes losing a job saves a life you didn't realize you were neglecting. And sometimes the man you underestimate at lunch is the very foundation holding your world together. Kieran learned that loyalty should never mean self-erasure. Soren learned that love is spelled Time. And a company learned that true leadership starts with listening before judging. In the golden warmth of that afternoon, laughter returned to Kieran's life. Not the fragile kind that fears interruption, but the steady kind, rooted in dignity. And this time, no one could take it away.